Ooh, okay, Dragon Brood. I think this is going to be the last just deck tech video I put up before y'all actually see more gameplay footage. But for that, I wanted to do something a little bit different here. And this feels like we're going deep a little bit. And I know there's people who probably saw both words. Some of y'all probably saw the word discard. Some of y'all probably saw the word Esper. And y'all were like, yes, I'm in. I don't care what this deck is. I'm going to play it. So I totally get it. But let me caution you a little bit on this one, because this one's trying something a bit different and a little bit quirky. But that's kind of what we're here to do on this one. So with that in mind, let's go take a look at this Esper discard list. Now, the majority of this deck's gonna have the usual suspects you expect to see in a discard list, but we've got a small little twist on it that we're gonna see how well that plays out. You can almost consider this in some ways a little bit of a Super Friends-ish discard list, but we'll see. All right, so we're starting at the top playing Duress. Duress got reprinted in Innistrad Midnight Hunt. This is also the version that was available in Strixhaven, so you might already have some of these. But really good discard spell. We can play it early. It's 1 mana. We obviously were going to include it, so nothing really surprising there. We are playing a full set of the Shambling Ghast, really for a couple of different reasons. Like, at some point, your opponents are going to have to deal with it or attack, which does produce extra treasure. And that's going to give us the opportunity to play some of our Planeswalkers and whatnot sooner. Also, we have a couple that are off color, so it's going to really help our mana a little bit later in the game. And maybe, just maybe, it gets to pick off something small, right? So it's going to cover a few bases for us there. We're playing a full set of Acquisitions Expert. We don't really expect to have the opponent discard more than one, except for in cases where we already have the Elderfang Disciple out first. And then if that happens, we end up in a spot where maybe we get to get 2 cards from the opponent. But either way, this combination is very good. It pretty much guarantees you have something to do on turn 2 that's going to make your opponent discard a card and start setting up that kind of discard machine to get you to the later stages of the game. Now we're playing 3 copies of Inscription of Ruin, and this card's pretty good. Usually, though, you're going to be choosing the discard 2 option. But you can kill a creature with cost 3 or less. You can also return a creature that costs 2 or less from your graveyard. So, yeah, our creatures mostly cost 2 or less, so we can do that. And obviously, in a pinch, we can destroy something. There's a few rare times you'll actually play the kicker and use it for the full 3 options, but usually, like I said, we're going to be discarding 2 cards with it. We're playing 2 copies of Nighthawk Scavenger, and I think I started out with 4 in the list, and as I got a little bit experimenty, if you want to call it that, I went ahead and shrunk down, but I do still like the card. Its Death Touch ability is pretty nice because your opponent's going to be limited on options on how to destroy it because you've emptied their hand, hopefully. It also can take down other big things, which is nice. It also gives you a chance to gain some life, so if you do just have to get into a race, you can do that. So it does give you a little bit of a clock, and you've filled the opponent's graveyard already, hopefully. So you should rarely be playing the Nighthawk Scavenger for less than like 3 or 4 power, which is also very, very nice. We're playing 3 copies of Soul Shatter just because we wanted a quality removal that's non-targeted, so we don't kind of get caught by anything weird. And this will leave enough room for us to deal with those alongside the other discard spells. Playing 2 copies of Baleful Mastery, just sort of as a catch-all removal. It also exiles things in a pinch if we need to do that, so that's not too bad either. I know a lot of people are 50-50 on this. If you have another removal of choice you want to play, go for it. I don't have a problem playing this. Rarely are we going to give the opponent the card, but I do at least feel okay having that option if we feel it's necessary, since we get to exile both Planeswalkers and creatures. Then we're playing 2 copies of Skull Raid. If you don't know what Skull Raid is, it's a 4-cost spell. Makes your opponent discard 2 cards. For each one they don't discard, assuming their hand is empty or they have 0 or 1 cards, you get to draw cards. So if they have no cards in hand, you get to draw 2. If they have 1 card, you get to draw 1. If they have more than that, they just discard the 2 cards. It also does have Foretell, which is nice. So if you have nothing else really to do, you can play that. Set up a card draw situation later if you want. So just kind of playing it as a way to back up some of our Inscription of Ruins, but it is some type of card draw for us later in the game. And then this is where the train goes sideways a little bit. We're going to be playing Teferi, who slows the sunset. Now, do we need Teferi in the list? I don't think we need Teferi in the list, right? But I think it gives us a little bit of a different angle. It can allow us to attack and block with the Nighthawk Scavenger, which is kind of nice, right? You can get your damage in and still deter the opponent with your lifelink or Death Toucher, so that's pretty sweet. You can tap things down on the opponent's side if you don't want them to have things to block prior to the attack. That's a thing. But really the important thing is because we're playing Tergrid, and Tergrid has Tergrid's Lantern, which costs 4, you can tap it. Your opponent has to sacrifice a creature, or actually sacrifice a non-land permanent, give up 3 life, or discard a card. Well, you can pay 4 and untap and use it again, or you could use Teferi and use it again. So Teferi basically lets this work double time, and then if you have lands or whatever, you get extra options. Also, if you're close to activating it an extra time, Teferi also untaps a land, so you get that option as well, right? So there's a few different things Teferi can do alongside the Lantern to try to close the clock a little bit, but also just be another utility planeswalker in the deck. So we'll be interesting to see how it works. I don't know if it's going to or not, but even having the option to just do the couple of things it does sound very fun and appealing, so we'll see if we can really make it work. We're playing another Kaya. We just had Kaya in another deck. We're playing Kaya here. Again, another quality removal card. In worst case scenario, we get to where we can go ahead and hit it up for its ultimate, and then we just get to play all of our powerful cards over and over and over. Very often that's likely going to be the case if I were guessing. But yeah, big fan of this card. I think it could work perfectly in here. And you get to exile things, so you don't have to worry about them being in your opponent's graveyard and coming back. So yeah, again, I like it a lot. Also, getting to protect your smaller creatures is fine because those come back and then make your opponent discard, which isn't bad either. But yeah, then we have one Loth. Again, Loth is mostly going to be here drawing cards more often than not. If I were guessing, you'll probably make the couple of spiders just because they're good blockers, and getting 2 blockers for 1 creatures or from 1 card is really nice. But more often than not, I'm going to put money on the fact we're probably just going to be drawing cards here to try to get to either more discard or get to a Lantern or whatever, and this is going to help us out with that. We are playing 1 Blood on the Snow just because if things don't work out, whether we don't draw Kaias to deal with things, we don't get our Death Touch creatures, we don't remove the opponent's creatures, we don't make them discard or whatever, we still have another card that's a possible out. Ooh, excuse me. And it does at least let us return some things. So that's a big deal there too. So you can get back one of your big planeswalkers if you want to. Or if your opponent's close to dead, just go ahead and get back Tergrid and just attack for 4. That's a thing you can do. But we're just tossing one in there. And then of course Professor Onyx, because we have a whole pile of spells, and anything that can drain your opponent for those spells is also really nice. And it lets you dig deeper. It does have some other big benefits to it. So I mean, we're not going to discount that. And it's a non-targeted removal spell as well. Now to fix the mana, we are playing the Blight Climb pathway and the Clearwater pathway. So we're playing basically the base black pathways, then splashing the white and the blue. We are playing 2 copies of the... Oh no, we actually did put 4 in here. So 4 copies of the Shipwreck Marsh. We are playing 1 Hive of the Eye Tyrant. I'm only playing 1 Deserted Beach. It's blue, white, and we're mostly black, but I just kind of wanted that in there to see how it works out. And then we have a bunch of snow-covered swamps and a couple of snow-covered plains. So yeah, totally different thing. If you like discard, it's going to still play mostly like a discard deck, but you do have the opportunity to do some kind of big finisher type things to kind of speed things up. So we're going to see if that helps, because it's been one of the drawbacks to the Tergrid type decks from the last season or 2. Feel free to do what you will with that. If you open some of these and you want to give it a go for it. If you want to just play this as a discard list, you can totally play it mono black. You can play it mono black splashing white. If you don't want to play the Teferis, feel free to play Humiliates. That works out perfectly in this list, and that shouldn't be a problem at all. We've done that with stuff, I think, from Standard 2022, so we know that works. But yeah, this is just a different idea, different spin on what you can do with Esper and discard that I just wanted to put out there. But if you want to discuss this, or you have some other crazy experiments you want to discuss, feel free to come by our Discord. The link's down in the description below. You can also stop by either my Twitch stream or my Facebook gaming streams and come by and pitch your decks, talk about things. We can do that there as well. And finally, if you haven't, please remember to like, subscribe, follow, share, all that wonderful stuff. And really, I can't say it enough, whether it's my content or another creator you follow, please remember to share their stuff, show it to other people, because that's really how you help them grow their channels. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.